Okay, we're going to go ahead and get started. So thanks again, everyone, for joining our webinar, the Winning Career Fair Strategies. So we'll go through 5 lessons from top tech firms. Before we dive into content, let's do a couple of introductions. So my name is Kristen Ribero. I am the product marketing lead here on our employer team. And I work with our customers in a number of different ways through research and interviews, in learning how they conduct their career fair strategies. So really excited to tell you about some of the things I've learned. And then I'll go ahead and let Pallavi introduce herself.
Hi, everyone. My name's Pallavi Ralhan. I am part of the customer success team on our employer product. So I end up working with all organizations and recruiting teams to make them as successful as possible using the Handshake platform. Very excited to teach you all our top 5 lessons today, and we'll get started right away.
Awesome. So just a couple of small items before we get started. You'll see that there is a little questions box on your GoToWebinar console. So feel free to use that as we're going through the presentation to ask questions so that you don't have to remember them and ask them at the end. We'll try to answer some of them live in the presentation. And then also another reminder is that this session is being recorded. So if there are any of you who have colleagues who couldn't make it and want to hear the content afterward, we'll be following up with a recording tomorrow. So before I dive into the actual content, I do want to do a quick audio check. So what I'll ask to do is, if everyone can hear us well, if you can just press that little hand raise button on your console. Perfect. Okay, so it looks like audio is good. So let's get started. We like to always start with our company mission and sort of why the company was founded and why we're here today. And that's really around democratizing opportunity for all students across the board, no matter where they go to school, where their parents live, really opening up opportunity in their career search to everyone, and ultimately really helping you all, those of you on the phone, get access to that talent and build your best, most diverse teams yet. So what we're hearing, Pallavi and I both mentioned, we're talking to customers in a number of different formats, and what we're hearing is that a lot of our customers' teams are under pressure, especially as we think about the time we're in right now. We're going into fall recruiting season. And what we're hearing from them is that a lot of the businesses are more interested in hearing, like, what is that ROI from the campus investments that university recruiting teams are making? Or how can we diversify our pipeline, our candidate pipeline further? And all the while, how do we do all of that with oftentimes limited resources? And so I'm sure, this might sound familiar to a lot of you on the phone or on the webinar. Is, you're hearing management or leadership asking these same questions. And so we want to be able to kind of walk you through some tips that we've learned from our customers that will help address these areas. And with that said, contrary to popular belief, career fairs actually are not dead. And I think that's why a lot of you are on this webinar today. There's a dialogue that's been going on, or a debate rather, saying the career fair is dead and, no one attends them anymore. But it's actually not what we're seeing. And we're fortunate enough to have a huge network of, 9 million plus students and young alumni across 250,000 employers of all shapes and sizes. And so we're actually seeing that career fairs are alive and well. And if you look at the numbers here, this is looking at internet and software companies from fall 2017. So you'll see there were over 2,000 companies in that industry that attended a fair in fall 2017. And that's across, about 1,450 career fairs. So that's the number of attended fairs by at least one software company. And on average, about 4 to 6 fairs during that time frame, during that fall 2017 time frame. So you can see, this is just one slice of our network looking at these software and internet companies, but definitely shows you the scale at which fairs are being attended. And really, if you look at that last number, the average of 4 to 6 per fall season, it really shows you if you are attending, that number of fairs, why it's important to be very intentional and prepared with the time you are spending on those, 4 to 6 events. And so, here's a little fun GIF. This is what's happening at career fairs. I think everyone on the line is probably somewhat familiar, but there's a lot of walking around, a lot of shaking hands, pun definitely intended, a lot of meeting companies, new companies for students, for you all, a lot of meeting new students for the roles that you're trying to fill, and it's definitely a lot, and it's a lot to keep up with. But what we're seeing is that, these legacy ways of showing up to career fairs are no longer working. So, just going to the same schools every year without any relationship building, having a pop-up and some swag, maybe manually collecting paper resumes, those strategies or sort of ways of working aren't working today. And that's really because there's new expectations and there's new ways of working. If we think about some of these top tech firms and how they're showing up to campus, Google, Facebook, Meraki, Adobe, et cetera, there's a lot of competition with top tech firms. And even if you are a tech company or not, there's sort of this competition where you need to stay relevant with this generation and really be able to meaningfully engage students like a lot of these companies are doing. And so, we'll talk you through some of these examples or some of these tips and tactics of how, for instance, the Merakis of the world are showing up on campus. And you can apply these not only if you're trying to recruit tech talent, but also if you're trying to recruit any other types of talent. I think they're really relevant to anything across the board in terms of how you show up to career fairs. And ultimately, we're going through these 5 strategies, but it is to help you and your university recruiting teams drive the most value from those campus investments. So we know, a lot of companies can spend thousands to up to hundreds of thousands of dollars with their activity on campus. And so, with that investment, it's important to make sure you're seeing qualified candidates come through the pipeline, the right ones, being able to really drive value from what you're doing on campus. And I will pass it over to Pallavi to kick us off with the first tip.
So lesson 1 in these top tips for career fairs is to prepare your job criteria and qualifications. So essentially that means doing your homework before attending a career fair. So that way you can go into these career fairs knowing what types of students you want to reach out to. So Handshake allows you to build segments, and those are buckets of groups based on the types of criteria you're looking for. So you can essentially build these student criteria, come up with the students you want to reach out to, proactively message them before you go on campus, letting them know that you'll be there so you get the right top talent when you're on campus at that career fair. You can use a variety of different ways of setting up those buckets. So if you're looking for top talent, you can look at students from specific majors, but also using skill sets in terms of technical skills and soft skills. You can use STEM and TEM major groups to find that top tech talent. Or if you want to go one step deeper, you can look for students who are passionate about building things, being hands-on. Maybe they have experience in building apps or hardware products. You can look for all of those things based on the organizations or extracurricular activities that a student is a part of. Lesson 2 is kind of along the same lines, but building those relationships before you go to make sure that you are engaging with the right students on campus. So we talked to a lot of students and we found that 77% of students would prefer to join companies where the companies proactively reached out to them. Yet only 20% of those students have ever received a message from an employer. And since Handshake is the official career center system of record, and we're ingrained in all activities pertaining to a student's career path, we can see a 60% message open rate across employers. So this is showing you that students will open your messages if you proactively reach out to them, which is going to engage them to want to apply for any of those open roles that you have. A quick example of that, or quickly before we do that, so students want to be reached out to, but there are a variety of different ways you can reach out to students. Social media, you can text them, you can call, you can put up blog posts. And by doing this poll, we realized that a lot of students want to be outreached from a career platform perspective. So that's using a software like Handshake. 62% of students will respond to messages and will use that as their preferred means of communication, while only 2% of students rely on social media to hear about your activities on campus. So it just shows you that Handshake can allow you to reach out to those students, find the right talent, and be that platform for any sort of engagement. Quick shout out that we wanted to do, an example, M&T Bank was able to see phenomenal results when they engaged with students before going on campus. So they used Handshake to reach out to students of all different backgrounds and majors. Some of those were students that they had previously seen success with, and some of them were students they had never had the ability to reach out to before. And by doing this, they saw a 161% increase in qualified applications because they were able to drive that top talent to a career fair and engage with them and build a student experience.
So lesson number 3, put your best, most authentic foot forward. I think what we're seeing on our side as we speak to employers is this idea of employer brand has really come to the forefront amongst our customers. And you can see from this survey, this is actually a pretty recent survey that we ran across our customers with around 400 responses, but 79% of those respondents indicated that improving their employer brand amongst students was a top 3 priority. And that was actually a little bit shocking to us, but I think it's, you know, as we go through and speak to our, you know, top tech customers, it seems to be that that's definitely an area of focus for them. And it is becoming for the same for the rest of our organizations. But that being said, employer brand can mean so many different things to different companies. And I think the point that we want to make to you all today is that it's not one size fits all across this, you know, student digitally native population. So I know a lot of people think, you know, let's show up with some cool swag, make branded swag, maybe sunglasses, or let's do a social media takeover of Instagram or Snapchat, or even let's show up on campus with like a taco truck with our logo on it. I'm a marketer, so I get that these are fun tactics, but I think it's not the be all end all when it comes to employer brand. A lot of students are looking for what it means to be a part of your company if they're considering it. They want to know, are there others like them there? They want to know how they'll fit in. So some things to consider and think about for your own company. What are your company's mission and values? How do you show a more representative face of your company externally? And what sets you apart from you and your company, apart from, you know, others that are recruiting in this space? Are you maybe a finance company that's doing something really cool with machine learning? You know, those are things that students want to hear about and really may not know about just from researching or Googling or talking to friends. And I think the other thing that I mentioned, you know, students want to see what it's like and they want to see others like them. So this is an example of our customer box's employer page. And they put actually a lot, their university recruiting team puts a lot of effort into showcasing their how they approach diversity and inclusion, and how that shows up actually on their Handshake profile, all the way to, the programs and groups that they also have, which makes, when you're a student considering a company like Box and you can see, hey, there are people like me there are groups for me to join, it really helps boost that brand and make it feel a little more relatable and tangible for this group of students.
So lesson number 4 kind of goes to when you're at your career fair. We've talked about things you can do prior to showing up, preparing who you want to talk to, enhancing your branding, but you can't forget what happens when you're physically on site at these career fairs. So a really good tip is showing the students that when they apply for a job or an internship, it's beyond that 9-to-5 position that they're applying for. Promote how that job can help them with their career growth. What is their 5 to 10-year plan, and how can you instill yourselves within that plan that a student has in their mind? What sort of mentorship programs does your company offer? That could be anything ranging from one-on-one lunches with managers or other managers on supplemental teams. It could be a panel session with everyone on your exec team. It could be a pairing program to help students in those entry-level positions understand how that position can help them as they go forward. Other things students want to learn about is future education opportunities. So will you encourage them to go back to school to pursue a master's degree or a postdoctorate degree? Will you encourage students to take classes to enhance the skill sets that they're going to develop during that job, or other skills they can develop to bring into the workforce? Students also want to hear about work-life balance. Generation Z is a very active generation. They're always looking at how can they be involved in multiple things. So being able to have that work-life balance and distinguish that is a really great way of showing students how this is more than just a day-to-day job. And the last thing is building a sense of camaraderie and a community within your organization. So that could be employee resource groups, intramural sports that you do, activities that employees can be a part of, but making sure it's an inclusive environment, since students will be spending the majority of their time in these positions post-graduation. So we pulled out a quote from a rising senior at Stanford into what she was looking for in her internship experience and what was important for her. And she points out that things like company culture, growth opportunities, and the types of projects that she would be working on were a factor in making a decision on the position that she would expect. So you can see firsthand from someone who is currently in school that those are the kinds of things they're looking for when they pick that future position.
And then lesson 5, finally, to tie it all together. So, you've gone through, let's say, tips 1 through 4, and I think this last bit is really important so that the work that you've done doesn't kind of fall to the wayside. It's important to continue these relationships after you meet students on campus. And there's a couple of reasons why this actually matters. We talked about employer brand rising to the top as a priority across our employer customers. So that'll help, when you continue to follow up and make sure students feel heard and known after meeting them, it helps build that brand. It also helps build, continue to build that relationship, and of course, fuel the long-term talent pipeline. So this can be, it doesn't necessarily mean you're meeting a ton of seniors who are ready to work, step into the workforce. This can be that longer term. You're meeting sophomores and beginning a relationship with them in order to cultivate that longer term pipeline. And for those that this is relevant to, it also, who have internship programs, it also will help you boost that conversion rate if you're checking that. And I know a lot of our customers are monitoring that closely from intern to full-time hire. So really it's to say, similar principles in marketing. You've done a lot of the work. You've gone on campus to meet these people. So don't let that fall through the cracks, and really continue the relationship. the students you are meeting feel, feel special, and that will really help your business and your pipeline in the long run. And we're also giving you an easier way to do that. So Pallavi will talk more about this in just a second, but part of our fall product release is event check-in functionality. And this will allow you to centralize all of that career fair activity on Handshake. So, you're already registering for events on Handshake, registering for career fairs and events on Handshake. Now you can set up a check-in kiosk, meet students, record their preferred roles and notes, and then that allows you to have that sort of very personalized touch point afterward. So you're not trying to collect manual paper resumes, hopefully not losing them in the shuffle. You can centralize that all on the platform you're already using. And again, really make students feel like the follow-up to them is personal, and you have all of those notes at hand from meeting them in person. So with that said, we want to talk to you a little bit about how our newest product release, the Talent Engagement Suite, will actually help you take these top 5 tips that we've gone through and implement them in practice in the product in time for fall recruiting season.
Awesome. So with the Talent Engagement Suite, we're helping employers like all of you on the phone strengthen your core school programs. So you've already got those core schools that you're going to be visiting on campus. We want to make sure you can proactively reach out to those students. You can make your time there most effective by doing event check-in and reaching out to the students post-event to make sure that they follow through with applying for a job or an internship. But beyond that, our Talent Engagement Suite also allows you to build a nationwide strategy. So there's obviously only a certain number of schools you can physically be at and attend, but Handshake allows you to reach out to all of those schools that you can't go to with this virtual strategy, therefore connecting it into a nationwide strategy. And then with that, we allow the university to have different sorts of talent priorities. So you can look at what are the most important things for me or myself or my team when I'm trying to reach out to these students. Is it building more qualified candidates? Is it increasing the diversity in the candidate pool that I already have? Is it making data-driven decisions when I go on campus? Is it enhancing our brand name so we can compete with other companies who have a larger brand name? Or is it just bringing in higher results? So we're going to pause here for just a minute. We wanted to get all of your thoughts and do a quick poll on what are your top priorities when you go on campus and to these universities to find that top talent.
So hopefully everyone should be seeing the poll now. So we'll just take a minute or two to allow you to answer. Before we close it out, we'd love to know what's top of mind for you. Okay, so it looks like we have a good amount of responses here. Seeing, the top one coming in is around finding more qualified candidates, and the second is around maximizing those results from your time on campus. So let's just hop back into the deck here. There we go. Perfect.
So we appreciate all of your thoughts. So I'm going to dive now into talking a little bit more about our Talent Engagement Suite. So our Talent Engagement Suite helps with having this holistic approach to the candidate experience and those candidates that you are reaching out to. So with the core platform, you used to be able to post jobs, you can attend career fairs, you can sign up for on-campus interviews, but that becomes the basic core of Handshake. With our Talent Engagement Suite, you can really enhance on those functionalities. So you can start with connecting with students, building different segments, and then reaching out to those segments of students for jobs or events. You can connect with them meaningfully by using event check-ins, even doing some sorts of webinars or virtual events to connect with those students that you didn't get to meet on campus. You can highlight your story and market all of the fun things that we've talked about in terms of your brand and the programs that you have on campus or you have within your company. And then you can build full relationships with the students through a full candidate journey. And then we tie those top 4 pieces together to allow you to track your results through any sort of custom Handshake analytics so you can make data-driven decisions. So Handshake allows you to be a seamless platform. You can connect with all the universities that you're talking to. We have 600 plus schools on our platform. We then become your recruiting system of record. So all of your jobs and applicants, all of the career fairs and events, those could be on-campus events or off-campus events, and then validating your student profiles get integrated into one platform. That becomes a seamless candidate experience, which you can then transfer over into your ATS to move forward with your hiring process, the interviews and the offer letters, and building those classes for your internships or your full-time positions. So the Talent Engagement Suite has a variety of different functions. The first function is the ability to build segments of students. So these are criteria that you can put in place based on what you're looking for a specific job or internship. You can then send out proactive campaigns or smart campaigns based on those segments. You can plan ahead of time and pre-schedule your campaigns. We all know that you're all busy before you go on campus. So using the Talent Engagement Suite and our pre-scheduling functionality, you can come into the system, you can set up all those campaigns, allow students to know that you're coming on campus, and you can do all of that prior to being on campus. You can schedule follow-up messages for the students prior to that event, post-event, and then to find that most efficient way of doing your full campus engagement. You can also build more meaningful relationships through in-person and virtual events. So we've already talked about career fairs, but you can go one step deeper by creating on-campus or off-campus events hosted by you as an employer. So these could be tech talks, info sessions, career panels, maybe a networking event. Or you could loop all of this together and do a virtual event to connect with those students who are cross-nation and build that nationwide strategy. Once you create those events, you can invite the right students. We can download the RSVP list. You can send the follow-up messages, allowing students to know you appreciated them attending your event and here are the next steps. And we can track all of your outcomes from those events. You can also sell your story authentically with our content and branding. So each employer has a brand page, and that allows you to have personalized and focused content to each student about your company. In the highlighted photo over Jenna Wong, we allow you to do employee perspectives, so you can have dynamic content based on a student's major and their interests, so that like students can look at how other people similar to them have gained experiences or positions at your company. Building this branding and this content will help you build positive outcomes within segments that you may have historically had struggles or challenges with in the past. Finally, you can build relationships in full context. So this allows you to have a full circle candidate journey within your company. You can look at all of the communication your team has had with a student, events they've attended, jobs they've applied for or they're interested in. That way you can engage with them at any stage of your pipeline process and understand where they fall into that line. You can manage all of your outreaching efforts and understand where that student is to make sure that you are reaching out to the right talent. So we've talked about building segments, having proactive messaging, enhancing your branding, making sure that you have a full student candidate experience, but we're all data-driven people, so we bring all of those pieces together into a control center so that you can track results for your recruiting efforts. So this allows you to look at inbuilt analytics in terms of the campaigns that you sent, what are the open rates and the click-through rates for the messages? Are your messages being perceived well from the student population? If so, you can duplicate those. If there's room for growth, we can work together to make sure that you enhance your messages so your open rates and your click-through rates are increased. We can look at how many of the applicants were sourced from your proactive messaging. So that could be any of the segments and campaigns that you send out to students ahead of time. And we can look at your branding and how many students are are coming back to your brand page to understand more about your company. Maybe they want to look for a future position. Maybe they met you on campus and you instilled something in their mind and they're now ready to pursue an opportunity with you. So we bring together everything into this control center and it becomes a full-scale platform with our talent engagement suite.
Awesome, thank you. So I think we've gotten some questions as we've gone along. So we're just going to take a second to gather those questions. And in the meantime, we wanted to direct you to some resources. So anything, help, questions, tips around our free core platform, feel free to visit our knowledge base, which is support.joinhandshake.com. And then if you are interested in what Pallavi just talked about, which is our talent engagement suite, part of our premium offering that also is paired with a success team to really help you be successful in your university recruiting, feel free to reach out to employers at joinhandshake.com and we'll pair you up with your dedicated account resource to discuss further. So we will answer some of your questions now. Just give us one quick second. Okay, so it looks like we got a question when Pallavi was talking about how students wanted to hear from employers and if LinkedIn was considered social media or not. So no, LinkedIn was actually considered a career platform in that survey.
Another question we got was what technology is required for student check-in? So student check-in will be built into our talent engagement suite. So if you are interested in that functionality, feel free to message us at employers@joinhandshake.com. We can have one of our account executives have a conversation with you about Handshake Premium and building that technology.
Let's see. So there was another question on message limits. So again, kind of as Pallavi just mentioned, with our core product, the core free product, you get 100 messages one-to-one. Really, if you want to be able to scale university recruiting, that's where we suggest you take a look at our premium offering and be able to actually send campaigns out. So there isn't a message limit when we're talking about the premium product. Of course, everything is kind of in this, what we call, quote, fair use guidelines so that we're not, you know, spamming the students on our platform.
Another question that popped up was if we have any suggestions on how you can maximize the engagement at your career fair booth. So I think this goes back to a few of our tips, which I'll reiterate. One is making sure that you are doing some pre-event planning and really reaching out to the students. You're obviously going to get a variety of different students who come to your career fair booth, but making sure that you engage the right students will make you have the most engagement because those are the students who will be interested in attending future conversations or applying for jobs. Another thing is focusing more on deep conversations with those students. So something that goes beyond the surface level of, hey, we want you to apply, we think you'd be a great fit, but drawing a conversation, whether that's with your recruiters or any hiring managers that may be at your booth, so that students leave with a good feeling that this is an opportunity they may want to pursue.
Another question was in regards to the box example that has sort of some media and authentic context on the page. So the question is around just sharing a little more there, and is that through Handshake? So great question. The example that I shared of Box's employer page was through Handshake. So that's what a student sees when they're searching for Box. If they want to know more about Box as a company, what it's like to work there potentially as, let's say I'm a female engineer, what kind of resources there are. So as a premium customer, Box is able to add a lot of that rich context. And then also personalize what we're showing to the student based on their major. So for instance, I gave an example of the female engineer. It makes more sense if I'm a female engineer for me to also see, let's say, a review from another software intern that was at Box versus maybe a sales intern. So that's all customized based on the student's major.
We had another question about reaching out to students post-graduation. Great question. So we do have active alumni on the platform as well. As long as the university allows a student to keep their Handshake profile, you will have the ability to reach out to them via Handshake even post-graduation. So we see a lot of recent alums, 3 to 5 years post-graduation, who still look for maybe their second job on Handshake. With our search and messaging capabilities, you have the ability to reach out to students who fall within that alumni category. So they'll be able to use the platform as long as their university allows them access post-graduation. And then we had one more question in regards to campaign messages. The question was around, is it an email blast to the students and who's seeing the message the employer is sending for the campaign? So when a campaign is sent out, think of it like a bulk message. It goes to any of the students who are part of a segment that you have created. And just to reiterate, a segment is a group of students based on a specific set of criteria that you have built. So each student will get an individualistic message. However, for your functionality and your ease of use, it is a bulk message that goes out, so you don't have to send them one-on-one.
Great. Well, it looks like the questions have kind of stopped trickling in. So I think this leaves us a good place to go ahead and end the webinar. If there are any questions, again, if you're interested in our premium product, you want to talk to an account resource about your specific activity on Handshake and how to scale that, do reach out to employers@joinhandshake.com. And we'll get back to you right away. Anything around the core product, so, basic questions, how to post jobs, how to register for a career fair, feel free to visit the knowledge base, support.joinhandshake.com, and you should be able to find your answer there. So thanks again, everyone, for joining us today to talk about our top tips for winning at career fairs this fall. Appreciate you taking the time and hope to talk to you soon.